This movie is terrible. This is a really bad movie.
Here's the review. What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm joined once again by my buddy Anthony A. Perez as we talk about a film that I've been dying to revisit for years. It's that famous Dana Carvey comedy, The Master of Disguise. The Master of Disguise chronicles the life of Pistachio Disguisey, played by Carvey. Pistachio, being a Disguisey, learns the family's secret of becoming a master of disguise, meaning, with careful precision, he can become anybody or anything, which comes in handy when his father's kidnapped by the nefarious Devlin Bowman, and he must become another person to retrieve him. First of all, I gotta thank Anthony for joining me once again. He and I agree on a lot of stuff, but we often don't agree with comedy. One of the last movies that we reviewed together was the 90s George of the Jungle film with Brendan Fraser, which is a film that I've always had a lot of fun with, but he cringes pretty hardcore with, and so I knew that I had to have him on for this one as well, because it's just as stupid, if not more. So we'll be hearing from him in just a hot second, but first, I want to talk about what I consider to be some positives about this film, because it's pretty universally hated. And that's something that I actually don't agree with. First of all, this is a comedy that's trying pretty hard to be stupid, and for the most part, you can tell that it's self-embracing how stupid it really is. Never once was it really trying to be serious or a film that wants to win awards. Honestly, when it comes right down to it, it's pretty much just a project for Dana Carvey to show off his skills at celebrity impressions, or just goofy impressions. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the whole movie. The whole movie is just Dana Carvey having fun with his impressions, so it's not story-driven, nor does it really have any kind of heart or emotion. It's just stupid. Which normally doesn't sound like a good thing, but if you can shut off your brain while watching The Master of Disguise, I think you can have a great time with it. I joke around all the time about this movie, calling it the masterpiece in disguise, because no, it's not exactly a masterpiece, but it does have me laughing from beginning to end, because Dana is just this unashamedly goofy dude, and he goes all out with these impressions, and you know what? There's so much about it that I consider to be completely memorable. I'm going to be the master of disguise. I'm going to be the master of disguise. I'm going to be the... Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Turtle! This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do. Become another person. Become another person. Become another person. It's non-stop. The whole thing, it's constant. Everything in this movie is memorable, and a lot of it has me rolling on the floor laughing. Even their chosen method of martial arts, which is just slapping people. It's ridiculous, and I can't get enough of it. But before I continue, let's hear what Anthony has to say about it. Here we go.
What's going on, David and all his viewers? Thank you so much, my friend, once again for having me here in another video to talk about another movie. This time you wanted me to check out a movie that I saw once maybe when I was younger. I remember seeing the marketing for it, the posters, the trailers, and there was definitely some nostalgic stuff that came back while watching this because of those trailers. But yeah, that movie is Master of Disguise, a movie that I genuinely didn't remember. This was one of those things where you start up the movie and it's kind of like, yeah, kind of almost like a fresh take in a lot of ways. Like, I didn't really remember anything about it, really, as far as the story, other than the fact that he's a dude that gets into disguises and that there's the whole turtle scene. And other than that, there wasn't really much. There were actually moments like the whole thing, like, this is what you're doing, this is what I want you to do. That thing, I completely forgot that this was from this movie. You could have put a gun to my head and asked me if that was from this movie, and I would have never, ever remembered that. And so I remember that from the trailers specifically, because I remember the trailers just running on TV all the time. So rewatching the movie, I got hit with like a blast of nostalgia for a couple moments like that. But beyond that, man, this movie is terrible. This is a really bad movie. I should also mention, I watched this with my fiance, and when I sat down with her, I said, hey, I gotta watch a movie for another channel. Are you okay with watching with me? She goes, yeah, put on whatever, and if I'm interested, I'll keep watching. If not, I'll just be on my phone. I go, cool. She goes, what's the name of the movie? I go, it's a movie you know. It's from the back of the day, Master of Disguise. She goes, Oh God, I've seen this movie a lot of times, and as a kid, apparently she loved it. She said she watched it tons of times, but she hadn't seen it in ages, well over 15 years, and she was very curious to see how she was gonna feel about it. And yeah, she hated it. I think she cringed watching it more than I did. Overall, what I can say about this movie is that for me, I just feel like they really missed the mark. Now, there were some things about the film that I did enjoy, and there were moments where I laughed, but most of those laughs were because of how absurd the moment was sometimes, or how cringy it was, that I was just laughing more at the movie rather than with it. I will say that the person who made me laugh the most is the grandfather in this film. He was genuinely funny. There were genuinely moments of his performance that were funny. And what I will say about all the performances in this film is that even though some of them are really bad, people like Dana Carvey and his grandfather in the film, they all really commit. Specifically Dana Carvey, I'm going to give him a lot of props for really committing to this really over-the-top accent and all the various characters and accents that he puts on during the film. He really commits to it. It's very cringy, and I don't think it works, quite frankly, and I don't really think that this is a movie with a story that anybody could really care about, quite frankly. But I will say that I can really, as somebody who loves to watch actors in films and likes to critique films in general, that I really do appreciate the commitment from the cast in this film, specifically Dana Carvey, who I feel really gives it his all. And I should mention, I am a fan of Dana Carvey. I've seen a lot of his stand-up stuff. I really enjoy that stuff. And I've always really enjoyed him in films. I enjoy slapstick, over-the-top, silly films. And this film kind of feels like it's supposed to play on like kind of an Austin Powers kind of thing, but with a disguise kind of element to it. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. One thing I really enjoyed about this film was some of the costume design throughout the course of the film and the set design, which leads to the next thing I have to say, which is that the director who directed this film, this was his one and only movie he's ever directed. I'm sure that this completely killed his career, but what he's most known for and what he's still working in the industry with is set design, is artistic design. And I think that this film definitely has that element. You know, there's definitely something about the production design that I think definitely lends itself to, you know, being able to recognize, oh, somebody who definitely had an eye for how to make movies visually definitely was behind the camera. So there's definitely elements about this film that definitely I enjoyed as far as the overall look and the set design and the design of the film overall. But as far as the narrative and the overall story, the dialogue, it's bad. And a lot of the performances in the film are bad. And even if they're really just committing, it's cringe, you know? Some of these sequences are just cringy. You know what it kind of reminded me of as far as Dana Carvey? It kind of reminded me of when Adam Sandler did that Zohan movie. I didn't really like that movie either. There's just this thing where certain comedians put on these really over-the-top accents, and it's just not funny sometimes, and that's how I felt watching this movie. Half of the time I was watching this, I was either cringing, laughing at the movie, or looking over to my fiance just kind of shaking my head. And one of the things that mainly made me shake my head while watching this movie is, without a doubt, the villain of this film, who is just... he's no threat, you know, that this film has no sense of stakes, and throughout the course of the film, there's this horrible running gag of every time this guy laughs, he farts, and he kind of ends in like an awkward laugh because he's super maniacal and he's having this big over-the-top laugh, but then he'll fart and then he kind of looks awkward and it's supposed to be funny. Man, I did not laugh once, and every time that he would start laughing, my fiance and I would just look at each other and just start shaking our head before it came, because you just know, here we go, and it's like this terrible fart sound. It's just so slapsticky and just not in the funny, like, good way. Again, I am a fan of slapstick humor. This one, I think, really does deserve its low rating on Rotten Tomato. I don't think that there's much about this film that's really redeemable, outside of being able to commend the actors for committing to such a ridiculous film and the overall performances and the dialogue. Like, the fact that they committed to these bits is what's really something I can appreciate more than anything. Again, the artistic design, the set design, the production design, all that I did enjoy. But as far as a movie with characters and a narrative that you can care about and follow and really be gripped to, this film doesn't have it. About 45 minutes in, I felt like the story had gone nowhere. And by the time the movie was over, it just kind of wrapped up super rushed. None of the characters really had any development except for our main character, Pistachio, who is just cringe to watch half the time, you know? And again, I like Dana Carvey. I appreciate his commitment to this role. It just did not work for me. So overall, Master of Disguise, definitely don't recommend it. This isn't even a movie that I can recommend on it's so bad, it's good level. I'll never tell anybody to never watch a movie. Like, if you're intrigued by this movie, watch it, I suppose. But overall, yeah, this doesn't do it for me. And I know David's a fan of this. Yeah, I haven't seen his bit as of filming this. You know, I'm just sending him this video. So I am curious to see how this video plays out. But yeah, man, this is a rough movie for me. And anybody who watches my channel, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know who I am, Anthony A. Perez, I talk about movies and all that kind of stuff over my channel. Anybody who watches my channel knows I'm a fairly positive movie reviewer. I'm not really somebody who likes to dog on movies. It's just not in my nature. And this is just a movie that for me, even with some of the positives I was able to say, just doesn't work. I just don't think it's a funny movie or really even a good movie in any way, really. So that's my thoughts on Master of Disguise. I'm going to hand it back to David. Didn't expect to go this long, but thank you again for having me here in another video, my friend. And I look forward to hearing what you have to say in this video.
Oh boy. Oh boy, that hurts. That hurts. I can't believe you hated it, man. I mean, it's so wild to me because I genuinely have so much fun watching it. If you take it too seriously, of course it'll be cringe. It's almost trying to be cringe, which makes it that much better for me. I do appreciate you taking the time to check it out, though, but seriously, go back and watch it because you didn't do it right. So anyways, yeah, with the negatives, I really just have to point out the same things you did. Like the story, it's not really there. It's mostly a sketch comedy film above all else, so it's not really trying to be a storyteller, but at the same time, story is often what separates a stand-up routine into a narrative. And you're right, it's not a compelling story. And the villain isn't really a threat, as he too is a comedic side character. Even though you hated his gag, I also laughed every time that came up, and of course we all knew it was going to come up. That's why I even had a fake out in the movie where he thought he's going to get away without farting, and then he farts anyway. It's so tongue-in-cheek. It knows exactly what it is, and it's just having fun doing whatever the heck it wants to do. And I can't really fault them for that. It definitely looks like they had fun on set. Let's go ahead and break down my final score. Anthony, whoo, you're gonna love this. My unbiased score is pretty average. There's a lot that this film doesn't really impress with on a technical level. Although, as Anthony mentioned, some of the set design or production design does go a long way into creating a vision for the world and for how Dana Carvey acts, so it is better than it's not, though it is still mostly average at 74%. My bias score, or how I felt about it as a whole, that's where it's at. I had so much fun with this movie, so much fun, and would rewatch it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't mind owning it. I wouldn't mind adding it to a collection. When people say that they haven't seen it, I end up recommending it. I laughed a lot. I don't know, guys. My experience with this film was up there, so my bias score is actually 92%. Averaging out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 83%. 83 out of 100 possible stars, or a B letter grade. Sorry, man. Look, even if you just take a look at my technical score, it wouldn't even be that bad. I mean, I wouldn't call it that great, but it is average. It did what it wanted to do. It did what it set out to do. And you can't really fault them for that, and some of that makeup work was actually pretty great. So even looking at a purely unbiased aspect, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Your bias score, however, would probably be pretty low, which would obviously affect the end score, if you scored movies like I do. So once again, thank you once again for joining me, Anthony. Everybody listen up, even if we don't agree on every film. Anthony still has a lot of really great perspectives on film, and a lot of fantastic content over on his channel, which I've left a link to in my description box below. So go check him out, give him some love, tell him I sent ya, and as for the Master of Disguise, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Do you think it deserves all the hate that it has gotten throughout the years? Why or why not? Other than that, guys, hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with the next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us. We think you're